Hello and welcome to From On-Prem to the Cloud session. My name is Sergey and I will be presenter during the next 45 minutes. What this session is all about. In this session, I'm going to show you how you may get access to the Cloud AD, Microsoft Cloud AD, when you have some sort of access, some level of access on premises. So that's going to be the path from On-Prem AD to the Cloud AD. And this session will be based on live demos, so you will not see a lot of slides here. Most of the time, I'm going to show you how to do it live. Before I start to show you this, let me say a few words about myself. My name is Sergey once again. I am a pen tester, instructor, conference speaker, so I speak at different conferences like conferences from at Microsoft headquarters, Global Azure Security B-Sides, Wild West Hack and Fast, here and Adversary Village, and so on. And if you want to contact me after this session, you want to ask me something, or you want to see what other sessions I have and you want to watch them, here's the link. Here's the LinkedIn. Usually I announce my other talks. I have a number of certifications and awards. You can see some of them listed, but I hope that's not your goal to listen about me the whole session. And so let me jump to agenda and let's start our content. All right, so what we're going to cover here. In this session, I'm going to show you first what is Azure AD Connect and how it may be compromised. So like this, that's a classic way to integrate on-prem AD to the cloud AD, Azure AD Connect, and how it may be compromised, what may be the bad configuration. Then I'm going to show you a new offering from Microsoft, which is Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync. And we will see how that may be compromised as well. Then we will bypass MFA and authentication prompt and start to enumerate the cloud. But for enumeration, I must also bypass AMSI or AMSI. And finally, we're gonna quickly talk what should we do to mitigate those problems. All right, as I mentioned before, this session will be based on live demos, so I'm gonna switch to demo and let's get started. So first, I want to show you what Azure AD Connect is, just in case if you haven't worked with that before. So Azure AD Connect, that's the tool from Microsoft, free tool of course, and this tool may be used to synchronize your on-premise AD to the cloud AD. And when you can configure this tool, one of the things that you must do, you must connect to your on-prem AD here. So like you will type enterprise admin username and password, and AD Connect will create an account that will be used for synchronization. So let me show you this, because I already have that configured. If I go to the main controller and go to users, so here is an account, MSOL _ something something, and that just a regular user. If I go to member of, just the main user, so nothing special with this account. But that account may have number of permissions, extra permissions, if you enable some features. One of the features which is very popular, called password hash sync. If you turn this feature on, account for synchronization, like this ADDS connector account, will have extra permissions. It will have permission to replicate Active Directory. So those permissions, replicate directory changes and replicate directory changes all. Now let me show you where they are. So in my AD Connect, I enabled password hash sync, and by the way, it's very recommended option. So most companies, they enable password hash sync. So passwords, password hashes of course, synchronized from on-prem to the cloud as well. We use that for resiliency, and so that's enabled for many companies. If I go to properties of my domain, go to security, and find this MSOL. So here are those permissions. They are delegated. So that's just a normal, typical configuration of AD Connect. Now, where we may have the problem. The problem is if someone can own this account An attacker, if he or she owns the account, will have those permissions, and those permissions are quite privileged, are quite high. So let me show you how I can own this account first, and then what I can do with those privileges. This account, we don't know the password of this account, so we must find the password first. Let me jump back to AD Connect, and let me show you how we can get that password. Let me cancel that. So to get the password, this password is stored in AD Connect database. If I open this table, management agent, and let me remove those columns I don't need, and let me just keep a few of them and run that. Now, if I look for credentials, look at this. So it says username is here, MSIL underscore something something, and password also here, but password is encrypted. Not that simple, so you will not be able to just take password in a plain text. All right, but there's another way. How can we get password? We must decrypt that. To decrypt password, what we must do, we must become the main, we must become local administrator on this AD Connect server. So AD Connect administrator can decrypt this password. Decryption process is quite tedious if you do it manually, but luckily we have people, we have good researchers, and they give us tools, and one of the tools called AD Connect dump. So if you just run AD Connect dump, look at this. I have a password from the SQL database and decrypted. And by the way, so you may find this tool on GitHub, and you may also find the article from author of this tool, and he explains how to do all of this manually if you want to do it manually. But manual process will take a while, so I will not be able to fit into my session. All right, let me copy this password. And now what I can do, so now I own user, and now what I can do with this credentials. Let me open first command prompt on a different machine. At the same time, I'm going to run as different user. Let's type MSIL user and click OK. It will take some time before command prompt will appear, so let me first check who am I here. I'm user JDAW. Let's take a look if I have permissions to enumerate a C drive on my controller. No, access is denied, so I'm just a regular, maybe I'm local admin, but I'm not the administrator on the main controller, so I don't have the main admin permissions. All right, let's try something else. Let's type who am I here, and this command prompt from MSIL user. Let's try to enumerate the main controller as well. Access denied again, so no luck. But we don't really need that at this moment because now we have permission to replicate directory changes. With this permission, I can synchronize, I can replicate information and password hashes of any user in the company, in this network, in this domain. So let me go to C tools. Oh, Mimikatz. And let me run a very well-known tool called Mimikatz. Now, in Mimikatz, what I want to do, I want to say DC LSA dump DC sync, and I want to synchronize information about trainer. And trainer, he or she is the main administrator. So let's see that. Now I can see password hash of this user. Now let's open Mimikatz again. Let's run Mimikatz here, and let's say privilege debug. And I will run command, which is very well known, called pass the hash. I will copy this NTLM and paste here. And now I have another command prompt. Let's try to dr DC. Fingers crossed. Yay! Now I have access to the main controller. That means I became the main administrator. So when we have AD Connect, and password hash sync is enabled, which is quite common, what may happen? This account for ADDS account will have quite a lot of permissions, and so you must be very careful when you delegate permissions who is AD Connect administrator. So please be careful with AD Connect administrators. Don't provide these permissions to like middle level administrators, because they can become domain admins quite easily. All right, so that's the first thing. That's the classic configuration. AD Connect, when we install the whole server inside of our network, and so we have it. We can compromise like this. There are some other ways how can we achieve this result. Because if you Google a lot, you will find some other ways. If you have like a pass-through authentication and some other ways to authenticate in AD Connect, how they may also be compromised. So I'm not going to show you all of those ways to compromise AD Connect. Just check this one and make sure only domain administrators can manage AD Connect. All right, so we discussed the AD Connect, how it may be used to synchronize accounts, and the more important, how we can compromise that, and what misconfigurations, what should you not do. Let's take a look on another option, which is Azure AD Cloud Sync, Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync. Cloud Sync, that's when we don't have the full engine on premises, so we don't install the full server. The actual engine will be in the cloud, but on-prem, we just going to install agent. So let's take a look here. Here, lightweight agent installation mode. So we just install agent on premises. So this configuration, it doesn't support all the features of AD Connect, so nowadays not that popular. But I guess because that's the new offering from Microsoft, it will have more and more features later on. So what if you decide to switch to Cloud Sync? How it will look like? Let me just go to the cloud, and if I go to Azure AD, so here we can in Azure Active Directory we can find Azure AD Connect Blade, and under that there's a Manage Azure AD Cloud Sync. Click here. And so what I must do first, I must download agent and install to one of the servers. If I switch to that server, look at this. So I have a server where I have this AD Connect installed. And how can you find this AD Connect presence? If you go to services, find Microsoft AD Connect provision agent. So this agent is installed. And so what you can do here, by the way, don't worry about degradation. It's because my demo environment was turned off for a long time. So if I go to configuration, here in the cloud, I can configure my sync. Also, by the way, I can synchronize password hashes as well. And if we synchronize password hashes, so we may face the same issue that the passwords may be replicated by the account. But the problem here with this Cloud Sync, not the problem, that's like a difference between AD Connect and Cloud Sync. In case of Cloud Sync, we don't have server, we don't have like a user account, we don't have SQL database where this account is stored. So that's a bit different. Let's take a look how it will be configured in case of AD Connect Cloud Sync. If I click on the agent, I can find that the agent is work on behalf of a Group Managed Service Account, or GMSA. And so in case of GMSA, there's no password which is stored locally. So that's an account in Active Directory, On-Prem Active Directory, and some sort of servers may retrieve password of this account from AD. Let me show you this. If I go to the main controller, here is a Group Managed Service Account. Nothing here. If I go to Properties, so if you go to Attribute Editor, you may find here like information about password ID, password interval, because this password will be changed by the Sears account. All right, so now I can see that this account is not typical. But how we can take this account over? Let me go back to my server. I'm going to open PowerShell. Let me type one command. Let me just type this. And now it says that this account, there's a principal that allowed to retrieve manage password, and this principal is agent. So the name of this principal is agent. Let's take a look who hostname, not who am I, hostname. And I can see the agent, that's the current server. So if I'm an administrator on this server, which is agent server, I can achieve literally the same. So let me show you a few ways how can we do it. So first way, I can open command prompt, but let me do it as an administrator because I must be a local administrator. I'm gonna go to C tools, and here I'm going to run psexec, and in my psexec I'm going to open cmd as this agent account. I don't need to know any passwords because this specific server may retrieve this password from ID. All right, now if I open Mimikatz, and run this LSA dump DC sync, yes, I was able to replicate information about hashes. All right, that's the most simple way to do it. If you can just locally run that and execute Mimikatz on this machine, but maybe that's not the case. Maybe you cannot run Mimikatz here, and we need to do it in a different manner. So let me clear the screen. I also need command prompt as an administrator, and let me open PowerShell as local system. So let's say who am I? I'm local system. So we know that agent can retrieve password. So if I become the machine local system, it means I'm an agent now. I'm a local machine. And so I can try to retrieve password from Active Directory. Let me do it like this. Not the password itself, by the way, it will be hash. And so now I extract password hash. What can I do next? Yes, pass the hash. And so that account will allow me to run elevate permissions. How to do pass the hash you already saw before. I don't think I need to show to you again. All right, so that's two ways how we can extract credentials, and with those credentials we can get access to the main administrator permissions. But you may say, wait a second, this session is called from on-prem to the cloud, and yes, you use something cloud-based like AD Connect, but you did not show us how to become a cloud administrator. You just showed how to become local admin, I mean domain admin, based on the AD Connect installation or AD Connect Cloud Sync, but not how to elevate in the cloud. Yes, let me show you this. So if you are domain administrator, that means that you can connect to literally any workstation or server in your network, right? Probably yes. So, and let me jump to demo again, and let me show you one interesting thing. When you have your cloud environment, you probably have IT professionals, developers, and they use their tool called AZ-CLI. Let me just type it. Let's say AZ account list, and let's output as a table. And look at this. So it shows me my subscriptions. All right. Now let's do the same on a different machine. Let me open CMD, and let me even copy and paste. Copy and paste. Fingers crossed it should fail. Please fail. Yeah, so it says you must log in to Azure first. But when I opened command prompt here, it didn't tell me anything. It just executed the command. The reason is I already logged in here and the token was cached. And token will be cached here. If you go to your user profile, there's a folder called .azure, subfolder called .azure. So if you go there, if you take all of those files, you may take only a few of them, but let me take all of them except config. And let's say I want to add that to archive. Let's keep 7-zip, that's fine. And so here is 7-zip archive. Let me copy this to this workstation. Extract that. Fingers crossed. Come on. Come on. Yeah, so now I can see list of subscriptions. Did I have any MFA prompts? No. Any password prompts? No. So, but this account, the account has MFA enabled, and of course it has password. But because we use cache token, we don't need to present all of this. We can just steal token, import that to the different machine, like just copy and paste, and you're all set, and you are in the cloud. And so now it depends on my permissions. I can do something. So let's try to do something. Let's say I want to create new user, which is called I will call this user Azure Hound. Let's create that, and the password will be quite strong. Don't worry, I'm gonna remove this user later on, so you will not be able to use this user. And also let me assign permissions. Reader. All right, so now I have user with reader permissions on the subscription level. So what I can do with this user, I want to enumerate subscription, and I will use quite well-known tool called Azure Hound. So have you heard about this? Azure Hound. So you probably heard about Bloodhound, which is like, you know, for on-premises. Azure Hound, that's the cloud version of Bloodhound. All right, so what I can do with this Azure Hound, I can enumerate. This time I can enumerate Azure in the same manner I did that in On-Prem AD with Bloodhound. I can do this. I can do something similar in case of Azure Hound. Let me show you this pretty quickly. I'm going to find my Azure Hound locally. Let me copy this, and let me paste that to desktop. Oh, I even have a folder here. Oh, it's already there. So Azure Hound is here. Now, what I want to do, I want to navigate to it, and let's say import module Azure Hound. Come on, Azure Hound. And look at this. It says that was blocked by your antivirus software. So I want to enumerate, but I cannot do it because some antivirus doesn't allow me to do it. So what is that? That's called AMSI or AMSI shortly. And so it's trying to test the PowerShell commands and PowerShell modules. I'm trying to run from PowerShell, or not only PowerShell, by the way, but this time PowerShell. So what I want to do now, I want to bypass AMSI. How can we do it? Let me show you real quick. I will not give you all the details about that because that's not the goal of the session. But let me try to show it to you really quickly. So I'm gonna open PowerShell. Open PowerShell, and let me run a tool called Frida Trace. And what I need to do, I must tell to Frida process ID of my PowerShell window. So it's 400. Nice. Let's say 400. All right. Now, if I type command like get service, so that was that works fine. And here I can see output from AMSI, AMSI output, and every time I can see this AMSI context. So what this context is all about? Let me copy this, and this time I want to open debugger. All right, and I'm going to attach PowerShell. And so let me just DC into this address. And look at this. So it says, here I can see something with title AMSI, like a header, AMSI header. So if I remove this header, AMSI will stop the work. How can we remove this header? Let me detach that. How can I remove this header? I can do it through debugger, or I can even do it from PowerShell. Let me just type something like this. And now if I try to do something like invoke mimikatz, it will fail because I don't have this module, but antivirus will not block it. Yeah, antivirus did not block it. All right, let me try to use this bypass here. All right, and let's try to import that again. Yay, that's working. And so now I just need to run something like invoke Azure Hound. Oh, sorry. But to do it, I must first connect to Azure AD. So let me say connect Azure AD. Azure Hound and password. So let's keep that first. Now, what I can do, I can say invoke Azure Hound, and now it will start to collect information from my Azure AD, not only Azure AD, from Azure in general, including Azure AD. Of course, it depends on my permissions, but because I delegate permissions to read everything, so it may collect a lot of information. And so the output will be soon here in this folder. So for the sake of time, let me jump to my Bloodhound GUI. I already pre-create the Azure Hound file, so let me just say upload data. And here is Azure Hound collection. And now, so statistics here is not very nice. If I just close that and run it again, let's see. Yay, we have, look at this, AZ applications, AZ devices, AZ groups, users, tenant, subscriptions. So we learn a lot. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we don't have pre-built queries for Azure, so we must run our custom queries. We must run our custom query. So let me run a custom query. Oh, damn it. Let me just first copy it here, paste here. And now I can see like accounts I have in my environment, and those accounts. And you may say, wait a second, what the hell is that? Because quite hard to understand. Yes, unfortunately, currently that is not super friendly, but at least I can build a graph in a similar manner like Bloodhound. There's a very nice article you may find here, Azure Hound Cipher cheat sheet, and here's a number of those queries that you may try to, and it will return some data that you want. All right. I hope that demo convinced you a lot that you should protect your AD Connect server, or if you prefer to use Cloud Sync, you must protect agent, and you should not provide permissions even to middle-level administrators to manage those servers, because they may easily escalate to the main administrators, and from the main administrators to cloud administrators. There's a number of ways to achieve that. Like if you are a cloud administrator, you may using Intune, you may become the main administrator. So when you have hybrid AD, you must protect both environments pretty well, because from one environment you may get access to another and vice versa. So the last slide here, and it will be slide. So what you can do to protect your environment better. So if you want to avoid compromising AD forced account, first of all, keep in mind, so AD Connect or Cloud Sync, the agent, they are tier 0. So it means that you should not allow like regular administrators AD Connect management. Don't allow server administrator to manage agent or AD Connect server, because they may become the main admins quite easily. So please use principal of least privileges. Also, by the way, if you use Azure AD Connect Cloud Sync, it may be considered as more secure, because configuration may be done in the cloud. On premises you have only agent, but keep in mind you should not allow access to this server, admin access to this server to middle level administrators. When we're talking about credentials, when I can steal credentials, here good idea will be use privileged access workstation and run administration and administer or run development from the separate workstation, which is not part of your infrastructure. So it will have multiple layers of protection. AMSI bypass. Here you may audit PowerShell commands and also use PowerShell constraint language. Of course, it's possible to bypass this language as well, but the more you have, then better. The more secure you are. And enumeration with Azure Hound, in this case, principal of least privileges, that's the best thing you can do, because to enumerate, to get information from Azure AD, you must run that command with some sort of permissions. So if you don't have those permissions, you will not be able to run it. All right, so that is about mitigations. So please keep in mind, the configuration AD Connect or even AD Connect nowadays, it's quite typical, and password hash sync also enabled. So make sure you will not become the victim. Even your users inside the company, they may do something like this. Maybe they are not malicious. Maybe they are not going to steal data from the company, but at least maybe they want to have more permissions. Like middle level admin want to have, like just in case, to have domain admin permissions as well. So make sure that you control access to AD Connect server or maybe Cloud Sync if you're going to use that in the future. Make sure you configure permissions correctly. All right, so I hope that session was informative. And if you have any questions, it's time to ask those questions. Of course, you may ask questions during the session as well, but now because I'm finishing, go ahead and ask them now if you have. If not, thank you anyway. And the best thing I can recommend you is to check your own environment and make sure you don't have those not the best, not the most optimal configurations. All right, thank you very much. Bye-bye. Enjoy the conference.